You'd be making a microwave and an iron. So I made everybody homemade candy. But I did make the bowl. While you're helping yourself to homemade candy, what we'll talk about today is StatutesPlus. Feel free to keep going and pass it around. Specifically, I want to talk about kind of why StatutesPlus. We'll go online, we'll take a look at the content to StatutesPlus, and then given what they'll let me show you, I want to show you some things as far as what the development, as far as what's to come for StatutesPlus. So, with that being said, then, let me see if I can get this. Bam, and pop-ups. Let me see if yeah, plus dinner at Red Lobster, yeah. Oh, am I on it? There we go. All right, statutes, the road to great statutory research. When I was initially asked to do a presentation on StatutesPlus, the marketing and draw people in that says, hey, StatutesPlus is a really great product. My response back to them simply was, it's awesome, but apparently that wasn't enough because the editor group and the marketing group sent me an email back saying, we've added a little bit more language to yours. Now, I think it sort of borderlines on plagiarism as far as what I created, but this is what they sent me back. It's close to what I said, but this is their language to it. It's a little bit more nice, but I think that they've actually hit it on the head right there. Statutory research, from a I've been with Westlaw for about 5 years. I worked through and with the University of Arizona, Arizona State, University of New Mexico. So, in the last 5 years, and even when I was in law school, statutory research has never really been areas that it kind of gets pushed to the side. We get really wound up in cases, and statutes sometimes. Law that I realized, wait, these two things are part and parcel, and when students start law clerking, they see just how short and how much of a deficiency they have in statutory research. So one of the things through West then, one of the things that they did is they started doing a lot of polls, and West is notorious for this. Probably been on some sort of committee. But West did a couple of polls, some surveys, and some market research that what is about statutory research that people shy away from, because when it comes to cases, surveys show that 90% of people online research when they do about statutory research. Well, a lot of it wasn't, well, the content, because the content's the same. It's the United States online, so it wasn't the content as much as it was the presentation. They had, well, we like the books because it's easier to read. Like the tools that come from it, the popular name tables, the like that people like to be able to have. Right. So when you look at StatutesPlus, I don't think of it as in the sense that West didn't reinvent the wheel when it comes to statutory research. Rather, I like to think of it as a fact that they basically just revamped it. They've modified it so that the road to statutory research becomes a lot smoother. So, with that then, let's take a look at the Results Plus and see if I can get in line here. Absolutely, please, at any time. Everything within Results Plus, as we walk through some of the content, actually, you know, I'm going to go even back further so that we can take a look. When you're doing your statutory research, it's this thing's going to kill me because I move so much. And you know, there we go. No, they're doing it for state statutes as well, and we're actually going to talk, and that's sort of the to come. Federal statutes, great coverage through StatutesPlus. The states You can now have, we'll talk about key side as far as the red flags and yellow flags and things like that. You have red flags for all state statutes. There'll be pending legislation. They just I think it's up to 22 states now. That will continue to grow, but that's for some of the future development, and we'll just touch on that slightly for some of the things for state statutes as well. Now, one of the things about Statutes Plus then is, and this is one of the first screens that was actually modified, they actually took a lot of the tools, again, those things that people like to do in print now, and they've put them one mouse click away. Some of these tools were in Westlaw, but you had to go to different places to get them. You had to go to several screens to actually get the same tools. Again, not reinventing the wheel, but just making it a lot better. One of the things they added then to make it easier for everyone, for standard search, the natural language or terms and connectors, whatever you prefer as far as your normal or your regular type of searching. But they also added find by citation. You could go find by citation if you happen to know the exact citation to whatever you're looking for, but they made it easier. We don't have to worry so much about formatting anymore. They're formatted for us, and there's several categories. They've taken a lot of the common statutes, public laws. We have the templates for public laws now. Again, don't have to worry about, is it PUBL, is it law, public law, do I have to write out the whole thing? And for new students, this is huge. They have formatting trouble. You could show it to them, and they would still get it wrong when it comes to actually entering the citation. Constitution, orders, all these templates, again, formatted for you. You just plug in the numerical portions to whatever you're looking for. Next to that, then, table of contents. Again, on Westlaw before, but they've just now put it in a more convenient and easier place to work with. You have the United States Code. You'd also have it for state statutes as well. The index, again, just like what you've had for print, you now have index a click away. And then the popular name table. Again, used to be there, but now it's just a click. In the time that I've been working with this with students, they love this feature because there's no really one specific way you have to get to a statute. The goal is to get to the statutes that you're looking for, and Statutes Plus provides us with a number of different avenues to get to the same place. Maybe I don't know, is it the Patriot Act? Maybe I know I'm looking for underground storage tanks, but I don't know it's under an environmental act. The index, the popular name tables, find by citation, all, again, a number of tools to get us to the place that we're looking to be. I've never been asked that. I don't know, but I'll bet you could probably do a copy and paste. But I will make a note. Will you write that down for me? My speculation is no. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I will find out, and I'll get back to you. Yeah. And if it's not, I'm going to tell them we've got to do it. Yeah. My hunch is that it's not. But if you needed it, copy and paste, and yeah. Oh, it doesn't. Is it throw the margins and everything up? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go back to standard search, and I'm just going to run a real quick search here, and I'll show you how your results come back. Now. Well, if they come back. Actually, I forgot to select natural language here. This screen that comes up is the same screen that we used to see for cases and that we are now going to see for statutes. We have this results plus information. The results then are those documents over on the left-hand side that come back based on the query that we've entered. But the plus portion now is that content over there on the right-hand side. Westlaw is, again, facilitating good research on our behalf. While we've asked for cases, or in this instance we've asked for statutes, Westlaw is going to help us do good research. They're going to help us find, based on a statistical relevance, they're going to help us find the most relevant ALR, most relevant AMJRs. If practice guides are associated with that content, they'll even drag in some practice guides. So they'll also give us a topic and key number. We can take that topic and key number then and carry that over into our case law research. But again, where we once had this for cases, now Statutes Plus is incorporating this because of the demand and the feedback that we've been getting from the case law research. Say that again. Basically what they've done is they've taken a natural language search, which we ran for our statutes, and they've behind the scenes, they've went through ALRs and they've went through AMJRs and those databases. And, yeah, Basically, yeah. In fact, you may, and I've seen this happen a couple of times, and I got a lot of emails, but so that you're aware, what will happen is you're actually running 2 searches at one time. There's been an occasion where, because we want our research and we want it now, this screen on the left-hand side, your left-hand pane may load up first, and if there's too long of a delay, it won't load up your StatutesPlus because, again, attorneys wanted their research right now. They didn't necessarily need this right now, and the statutes happen to be the most important thing. That's the database they selected. So you'll always get that left-hand pane first. If you don't get it and you want it, you just hit your back button and refresh the page, and it will load back up. But because there was a concern for time, you are running 2 searches separately so that you don't have to wait. Okay. And then to get into your major documents, you just pick the one that you want to read, and it takes you right to your statute. Now, I want to go through a statute real quick, and there's not one on this list that has everything, so I'm going to just do a real quick find by citation to find a good teaching example. One of the things again, not reinventing the wheel, but rather reformatting it for us, they've double-paned it, and what they've done on the left-hand side is all of my, basically, research tools for this one particular statute. When we took our surveys, people said, we like the white space. We like the ability to have everything separated out. It makes it easier for us to read. Your eye has a better focal point. So what they've done, they've increased your white spaces, giving you more depth to your statute. They've also said, I like having that book in front of me because I can kind of turn to neighboring parts and the neighboring statutes and stuff. Well, they give you that option as well because now you can, with everything basically broken out into a hierarchical content, you can click into those neighboring parts to the statute. You also have docs in a sequence. If you maximize this, we'd be able to see the whole thing. Docs in a sequence, again, docs in a sequence down here. Oh. Docs in a sequence, by clicking docs in a sequence, it moves you sequentially. Just like if you had that book open, you could turn the page, 529, we're now 531. It doesn't matter what's on your citation list. It doesn't matter what's on your citation list because it's going to move you just like you had a book open and you move from page. So again, navigational tools, docs in a sequence was always there, but they're making it a little bit more easier for us. Cancel docs in a sequence. I'm sorry, yeah. I'm trying to read and yeah. But yeah, 231. So thank you. All right, over on the left-hand side then, again, these are all of the tools to help us with this particular statute, how to interpret, how to apply it, how to look for additional citing references and stuff. On the left-hand side then, over on the left-hand side, our key cite, we'll talk about key cite in just a little bit more depth in just a moment, but we also have the monitor with key cite alert. It used to be up to the top right-hand corner. People wanted to see it, they wanted to use it, but what monitor with key cite alert does for me is if this is a very important statute to me, I can use this monitor by key cite alert. It's a wizard. Basically, you just click on it. It shows you the citation that you're about to set up under your key cite alert. You walk through this wizard step by step, decide the parameters. How often do you want Westlaw to take a look at this statute? And decide what type of content you're looking for. Do you want information as it pertains to whether the statute's been amended? Do you want information if it's been repealed? Decide what level of content you're looking for. You establish a time frame. How often do you want Westlaw to run the search? You put in an email. And every time something addresses this issue, whether it's statutory information or whether it's even a case that cites to your particular statute, this material is automatically sent to you. So you can use these key cite alerts for this particular matter. All right. We're going to come back and talk about key cite in just a little bit, but we'll kind of keep moving down. Table of contents then, just like what we saw earlier for table of contents from that search screen, we can do a table of contents from this particular screen. The great thing about table of contents is it opens you up into the United States Code annotated, and students don't grasp this until we actually walk through it, but this shows you exactly where you're at in the entire click that little button, it will maximize the whole page. But it shows you where you're at in the United States Code annotated. Maybe you popped into Chapter 6 and they realize, oh, well, Chapter 6 is not where I needed to be. Table of contents then is like having this shelf in front of you. You're standing at this large volume of books, and where docs in a sequence is like being able to turn page to page, table of contents is like seeing the volumes and saying, "Nope, got it wrong," and being able to pick a completely different volume off the shelf. Again, trying to make your statutory research online resemble the book research. Versions. What versions will do for me then is where we once had to go back to the directory, you'd have to go back to your old annotated statutes, and they'd be listed out by years. It was several mouse clicks away. Well, with versions, what they've done with versions now is they've now put it online. If you wanted to run your same issue, but you realize, I'm in the current United States Code, but maybe I actually should have looked at my effective date on my issue was from the year 2000. They've now put your versions a mouse click away. Is anybody going to AALL? They're going to actually talk. I really wanted to show you versions because it's about to go under a really cool change. They wouldn't let me talk about it. But one of the things, I'll dance around it a little bit. What versions is going? Yeah, there you. Yeah, I made you. Yeah. Yeah, I made you candy, so you can't tell them. Yeah, versions is going to be great because where this sets now is it's just basically taking you back to the directory where it once used to be, and you had to go back to directory and find the year. But what versions is going to do now is it's actually going to take you back to that statute for that particular year so that you can kind of compare and contrast as to where you're at and where it's been. So versions is about act surprised if you go, act surprised that you didn't know it was about to happen. But yeah, section outline. Section outline is also really nice. If you've got a statute that's several pages, couple hundred pages long, and you're looking for the little b surrounded by parentheses, all you have to do with section outline, there's no one on this one. This is that proverbial question when you get somebody on a stand, don't ask a question you don't know the answer to. I got this statute this morning, like, show this statute. I should have looked at section outline. But normally, section outline will list out all the parts to the statute, and rather than scrolling through several different pages to find the little b surrounded by parentheses, just click on it and it takes you and it launches you directly into that part of the statute. Over here. This is different from the plus portion. When they talk about the results plus, when we were looking at that screen earlier, the content that was on the right-hand side basically is ancillary stuff. It's AMJRs, it's ALRs, it's additional research. These tools on the left-hand side on this particular screen are basically all the tools to help you understand this particular statute. Now, we'll also see that there is some analysis sections and things like that to help understand the statute. There's notes of decisions, to interpret the statute and things like that. But these things pertain to this specific statute. Whereas the other screen, all of those documents were more of an overview. It ran on a search in the search terms that we provided. Does that make sense? Okay. Cases. This is a really found a red flag statute and ran. Here's section outline. Section outline, again, just breaks it down. And if I want to go to section B, I can click directly on section B, and it launches me into that specific part. All right. Cases. Again, cases, very, very important to helping us understand. It's the court's job to interpret, to apply our statutes, to help us know what's taking place with it. They've broken it out into 3 different sections. This one took a little bit longer to load. We'll see how it does after clicking on it. But what they'll do is, because we need to be current in our research, they've basically broken out your cases into 3 different categories. Last 60 days. They're going to give you a set of cases in the last 60 days that have interpreted or applied this particular statute for you. Some, depending on your school's connection, sometimes it takes a while to download them, especially if it's an older statute that has a lot of references. Sometimes the last 60 days will take a little bit longer to work with. Editors, I went too far. Notes of decisions. Again, notes of decisions. Students think that you just gave them the greatest thing since sliced bread when you walk through the value to notes of decision. You had to go under old statutory research. You had to basically scroll down through the statute to find this section called notes of decisions to implement it into it. Now, over on the left-hand pane, we can click Notes of Decisions. They break it out for us, break it out by our topics, and then eventually, if you keep on going, then you get into the blurb. This last category of cases is sort of that leftover category. It's cases that are older than 60 days, cases that don't have as much depth or breadth as those that appear in the Notes of Decisions. So they have this sort of third category of, all right, we're going to throw a couple more in there in case, for whatever reason, some of the other ones, something from the Notes of Decisions or last 60 days was not what they were looking for. So you kind of get that leftover category. Analysis. Again, with law reviews, we have over 700 law reviews, 98 of the top 100 ranked law reviews available. We won't click through those. ALRs will be there linked for you. Treatises and forms, again, if there's a treatise, if there's a particular form that might be associated based on the statute that you're looking for, you'll have a link to that. Legislative history. Legislative history is going to go under a slight change as well. They're going to try to make it a little bit more intuitive. But with legislative history and text amendments, they're going to try to give you a little bit more depth and breadth and linking material when it comes to your text amendments. What we can do with this then is it just tracks it back, takes it back as far as we have it for, back to 1978 when it was still back at a public law. Now, again, session laws, when it was still, before it was voted and passed on, we'll have to go to a different database, but that's one of those enhancements that they're actually looking at right now, is being able to link all of this stuff from this one page. Uh-huh. What we can actually do is, if you're going to limit yourself to one specific jurisdiction, rather than finding those cases from last 60 days or Notes of Decisions, I would key cite it and then go back to your limits and limit by field that way. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it won't be there. Some of the times you'll see, like it referenced, and there'll be no hyperlink. Now, they have said, maybe you might bail me out on this one, they have said that they are mutually exclusive. But I have seen things. I've seen it more often than not. Notes of Decisions won't appear in your additional, but I have seen, someone did bring to my attention, they found one that it was last 60 days, and I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean, they're not putting a depth or breadth analysis on the last 60 days. They're just giving you the real current stuff. So you may see some of those, but that would be probably where it pop in at. All right, editor's notes. Editor's notes varies from statutes to statutes. Basically what you're getting is, it's sort of like the commentary section of a newspaper. The attorney editors who've worked on this particular statute, they'll include notes, things that they've ran across. Maybe there's some sort of historical development, things to a particular statute, but there's no set and mandatory parameters as to what they put into the editor's notes. I always tell students, take a look at it. If this is a particular statute that's of interest to you, part of your research, always take a look at the editor's notes. See what else, see what other comments, expansiveness it might add to your research. Administrative code, just like for cases, they're going to link under your administrative section. You're going to have they'll link your CFRs. If you're working with an environmental statute and there is some sort of EPA regulation that ties in, that's part and parcel with your statute, you'll have your links to your environmental and to your regulation statutes as well. Key numbers. While key numbers are traditionally and historically attached to cases, what they will give us is they will take a look and try to find us a starting point, a place to start our case law research so that we can actually take and carry that key number over to a starting point for our case law. All right, any questions on as far as the tools to the left? One of the things I asked about that, and one of the things under legislative history, they're actually trying to they're actually beefing up and they're trying to work with the legislative history section to that. But from these links, unless they're embedded in something that's online, there's no specific link into that. Yeah, not unless it's embedded to a hyperlink. Yeah, coming soon. Yeah, act surprised because there's some things we're not supposed to go into just yet. But yeah, what was the question? Okay. All right, key cite then. This statute doesn't display it, but one of the things, and historically what they did with key cite was that, and this is really intimidating having the key cite man here. What they used to do is they just looked at what's the most devastating treatment this particular case has pending against it. If it looked at pending legislation versus a superseded or pending versus amending, that would only give you a red flag. And then you were expected, through the key cite process, to look at the accompanying information. What they've done is they've come back and said, okay, you know what, let's tell them. This particular, like I said, this particular statute, you have just your red flag, but you will see statutes that will give you both pieces of information. Not only is it amended, but it's also got pending legislation right now. With those yellow flags then, right now, Westlaw is the only place that you are getting pending legislation for all of your federal statutes. Huge, 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 maybe not quite at the law school level. It's kind of always a struggle. I'll do an advanced statutory class with the law students. They don't quite grasp pending legislation and its value to them. But certainly at the law firm level, pending legislation is huge to the practice of law and things that they might be implementing. So red flags then, on your red flag statutes, you're still going to get it's amended, it's repealed, preempted, held unconstitutional, your treatment that drastically affects your particular statute. We were talking about limiting your citations, and again, if you wanted to take a look at cases from that particular statute, you can always key cite and then use your limits if you wanted it from a specific jurisdiction or a specific court. Grab a yellow flag then real quick. Again, yellow flags just let me know, as a practicing attorney, there's pending legislation. Again, information not out there yet passed, not changing your statute, but if passed, could have an effect on your particular statute. When you click your yellow flag, again, it will extract your pending legislation. With our pending legislation, pulls it up into a link viewer. Maximize it, you can maximize it and bring up the entire document. Asked me this morning, we did a quick research session over here. Does everyone know how to, this particular statute, let me back up. How long this particular statute is? Does everyone know how to reduce this basically down to the United States Code? pulled up a statute this morning when I was working with a faculty member, and her statute was over 1,100 pages. If you, over here under Tools, if you go over to Limit Display by Fields, because every document in Westlaw is divided up into sections called fields, we can come back through and put a check mark in text. Click OK. It will take you back to your statute. Where you once had 952 pages, you can weed it back down, basically. And you're yeah, she was kind of in shock and awe, and she's like, well, I should have learned this one a long time ago. But I figured while we're in here and we were talking about statutes, it's a good thing to see. But yeah, fields will really help you cut down on excess printing or having to wait 30 minutes while 950 pages. Okay. Legislative History tab. Back to my little PowerPoint slide. So, how do we make the wheel better then? There's a lot of things, like I said, that is in process. We've talked about a couple of them. How do we make the wheel better? May not be exactly what you had in mind, but that might be one way to improve the wheel. Yeah, yeah, and that might be one. The future for StatutesPlus then, one of the things that they're actually working on is called graphical key site. Where we had a, let me pop back down here. You know, I'm going to when you click on your key site information, it lays it out. You know, amended, repealed, unconstitutional. It tells you about superseded, amended, reversed. It gives you basically a platform, and it traces the lineage, if you will, of the court or the case of the particular statute. But one of the things that they're actually working on is called this graphical key site. And again, you might be able to bail me out on this one. From what I understand, they haven't really decided where they're going to put a link or how they're going to let you toggle between this particular view over here on the left-hand side and this particular view over here. What this will do then, when you do this graphical key site then, it's going to give us another alternative to figuring out what's happened to this particular case, what's happened to this particular statute. In this particular instance, we have a case. It's going to show you, here's your starting point, up, down, as it went through the court systems. So again, another way for us to figure out, because it's absolutely essential. Horrible things happen when we get it wrong. When we trace the key site, if you get it wrong, bad things happen. So this is just another opportunity for us to get it right. Students learn in different manners. If they're having trouble following the regular textual key site pattern, we now have a graphical pattern that will let them take a look. The cases, again, they'll be hyperlinked. You can bounce back and forth between the case that you're looking at and maybe a case that went up to the Supreme Court and was remanded back down. For statutes, it'll look somewhat the same in the sense that you'll see where your statute, where you're currently at. You may pop in at a different place. You can look backwards to see, oh, this is what my statute looked like as a public law. This is what it looked at as a proposed bill. This is what it looks at way back here as the United States Code Annotated. So again, just alternatives to help us understand the evolution of our particular case or our particular statute. Yeah. It was actually supposed to be released by now, but they want to make sure they have it right, from what I understand. So they did not, when I pressed, they pushed back and said, yeah. So that's... Being from Wyoming, we may never get it, but yeah, it's valuable. All right. One of the other things that will come about, and we keep talking and hearing about it in amongst ourselves, is the states. let's be honest, there's a slight delay in any time that you're that you're narrowing your research down to the state level. Federal cases, federal statutes, very, very developed. States will come along, and we see the pattern: New York, California, the big two, if you will. But there is going to be legislative history. We talked about the developments for individual states as far as the legislative history is concerned. This is sort of a timetable, and again, nothing's ever set in stone. Delays do happen, but this is kind of this is the information that they give me as far as being able to develop the legislative histories. What they're going to do with this information, and it's available for federal, and not too many people have seen the tab, but it's actually a really helpful tab. Go into My Westlaw, and what they've done is they've taken all these. I don't know if you've haven't had a chance to see it. You can actually customize the Westlaw look to meet your own needs. The types of information, whether it's a topical area or whether it's a jurisdictional area, you can create these tabs for the content that you spend most of your time dealing with. I went ahead and I'll scroll on this list real quick. But I added this tab called Legislative History. This is your federal legislative history tab. Again, they're going to start, you'll eventually, and the goal is to have a tab for individual states. But one of the things, this kind of lays out, and for students, they like to see it this way, and I apologize, all my references are because I spend so much time in the law school, but students like to see this because it gives them sort of an evolution of, okay, this is where I'm at currently, this is what I'm looking at, this is the particular statute, or this is the particular bill that I'm looking at. They can kind of look at this flow chart then, if you will, and figure out this is the next step to my research process. It kind of basically lays out an outline, a roadmap of this is where I need to go, and this is the steps that I need to double check all my statutory research. You can click, let's say we clicked bills referred to committee. It will now give you your search box, whether you select natural language terms and connectors. It will give you the particular databases. It suggests several different databases that would deal with this particular part of that flow chart, if you will. Levels, different databases, levels that you're running your searches. And if you go to My Westlaw, it's one of the tabs that you can select. And that legislative history is and that will load up basically these tabs. If you haven't seen the tabs, again, the tabs are basically content driven. They've looked at all the databases accessed. Somebody working in criminal law, they've taken a look at the most commonly accessed databases for that particular practice area, and they said these are the ones we recommend or suggest based on usage that you may want. Again, you get your little map over here, and on the left-hand side, all of these shortcuts, all the shortcuts based on those tabs are based on the practice area or the topical area or the jurisdiction that you happen to pick. All right. Anything that I did not address that you might have a question? Thank you for your time. And again, act surprised when it comes back around. So.
I'm mostly interested in the map. Doesn't suggest, or just. Them yourself.
That would actually be, and a lot of statutory research is based.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That would be, they dissect